Alright, next I'm going to go over what the definition of a magical girl series is. It is different for every single person, as near as I can tell. My own personal definition, will you pass this back? I don't know if I have enough, but hopefully there's enough for people to really share. My own personal definition. In order for a story to be a magical girl series, it needs to contain at least one regular transformation scene. If it doesn't, it's not a magical girl series. It doesn't have to be there in every episode. It doesn't have to be there in every 10 episodes, but it has to be there more than twice, at least by implication.
That's all there is.
So for me, personally, Cardcaptor Sakura doesn't count. It's really, really close, but it doesn't quite count. I'm sure that would cause most people to totally disagree with me. My second criterion, it needs to be aimed at a female target audience. In my definition of the genre, Mahou Shoujo is a subset of shoujo. And therefore, if something is like Cutey Honey, covered in fan service and obviously aimed at teenage boys, it's not a magical girl series, it's magical girl-like. You see this in things like Utakata, or a lot of parodies like Dai Mahou Toge. Not clean, you would never show it to a child. Ever. Another criterion, which probably seems obvious, is that it needs to include fantasy elements, or at very least science fiction elements. The reason I say this is because there's a series that can almost be called a magical girl series that's completely realistic. It's Nanaka 617. The premise of that anime, has anyone seen it?
Which one?
Nanaka 617.
Saw the pilot.
Oh, no. I haven't seen it, but I know.
The main character falls down, hits her head, loses all her memories after the age of 6. Thinks that she is a magical girl and accidentally transformed into a 17-year-old version of herself, and
But I have to still deal with all the nanosolicities.
yeah, and got stuck that way.
6-year-old.
Now, she kind of just glosses over the fact that her best friend was 17 too. You can tell she's trying really hard to explain that to herself, and then she just forgets about it. But you could almost call it a magical girl series, but there's no fantasy. And one of the main characters is a magical girl, because the main character is modeling herself after her favorite TV character, who is a magical girl. But it's not a magical girl series. The reason I say at least science fiction elements is that Corrector Yui is definitely a magical girl series, and it claims it's not magic. It's in cyberspace. How the machines got sentient, I don't know. Why they want to take over the world, I'm not sure. And why her powers work so very, very well when someone programmed them in I don't know how much time. It's magic. Anyway. My fourth criterion is that it should have a female protagonist. That one is negotiable, but I have never seen a magical girl series that had a male protagonist. On the other hand, I have seen magical girl series, 2 of them, where the magical girl was not the main character. One is Ultramaniac. The magical girl is the main character's best friend. The other is called Super Doll Lika-chan. It's from the 90s. That's a more obscure one that most people probably haven't heard of. Super Doll Lika-chan, the doll, the super doll, is the magical girl. She's the main character's bodyguard. So in an interesting twist, the main character is the damsel in distress that gets rescued by the magical girl every episode. It's a strange series. Now, what is not included in my definition, personally, I don't think it has to be from Japan. I think we've had a lot of magical girl series that have nothing to do with Asia. For instance, She-Ra. Such a magical girl series. And there's no reason a magical girl can't be superhero-ish either. Because there was a magical girl in Asia called Tane Burin who fights crime in the same way Superman does. Very different from typical magical girl tropes. It was very comic bookish. Except, of course, that she transforms into a pig. A pig in a cape. It's very funny. She hates her magical girl form. She wants to lose it as soon as possible. Magical girl superhero, Supergirl. She has a transformation scene, and I'm sorry, but it's magic. Italian. Witch. Which comic books? Absolutely, positively Magical Girl. I don't see how anyone could mistake it for anything else. Webcomic, Angel Moxie.
Yes.
Yes.
So, yes, I really do think you can find great Magical Girl series out there that aren't Asian. And can create them yourself if you happen to be American and just happen to be lucky to be born with black hair. Yes?
So Shugo Chara would be a Magical Girl series, right?
Shugo Chara is a Magical Girl series. I don't think there's anything wrong with a magical girl being one of many people with powers. For some reason, some people's definition seems to be Akazuki Cha-Cha can't be magical girl because everyone in the world has magic. I find people like that very strange. She's a magical girl. And if any of you are familiar with that, she's saving the world from the dark magical lord, I believe that's actually his name, who took over the world a while back, but that doesn't stop everyone from living happy slice of life lives normally. It's cute and it's fun, and then she loses her transformation scene 2/3 of the way through the series, and I screamed. The genre can cross over with others, and it does frequently. If you're familiar with Mahou Shoujo Lyrical Monoha,
Yeah, I love that's a great series.
that is science fiction and fantasy both. Very much a crossover there, which is cool.
Yeah.
And for some reason, some people think that if a magical girl series crosses genres, it's not.
Oh, it is very much so.
Again, I think that's very strange.
That's one of the better ones out there.
You look at Ultramaniac, it's more romance than it is magical girl, but it's unmistakably a magical girl series. Mascots are optional. Romance is optional. Not every series has it. In fact, it's the older series usually didn't. Sally never had a romantic interest. Akashan never had a romantic interest.
Oh, it was a Wedding Peach was.
Wedding Beach is one of those magical girls who steals all the romantic interests.
Yeah.
However, the worst offender is still Ichigo from Tokyo Mew Mew. So, I also see no reason why there can't be adult magical girls, and I would love to see more of them. There just don't seem to be any that exist except in hentai parodies, which makes me mad.
Yeah.
Very
Unfortunately.
mad.
But
Yeah. So, if you flip over, you'll see examples of different genres. For those of you who aren't very familiar with the genre, Sailor Moon is not the only type. Fighting magical girls are the most common nowadays, but Sailor Moon changed that in the genre. Cutey Honey was the first fighting magical girl in the 70s, but she wasn't really a magical girl. Sailor Moon in the 90s was the first series to be a magical girl series in which they fought. It was also the first team magical girl series. Before Sailor Moon, all magical girls were either solo or it was them and their rival. And that was
How many people saw the Sailor Pluto with the key?
She was awesome.
That's my little sister.
She was awesome. Tell her her cosplay was awesome. Okay. So you see, do you have a question?
Yeah, with the Sailor Moon names, weren't they all like food?
What?
Planets.
They're like
I think
Yeah.
it's Tokyo
Yeah.
Mew Mew probably.
the moon,
Yeah.
Pluto,
So it's technically not a
Saturn.
planet,
Yeah.
but neither is the moon.
This is true. I was wondering why there was no Sailor Earth. It bothered me.
Because technically, actuality.
Sailor
It's Mamoru, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so the second most common genre is singing, and that's not second most common. Second most common is everyday magic, but the second most iconic is singing. That really only has 4 examples: Creamy Manny, Fancy Lala, Full Moon Osugashite, and Mermaid Melody, Pachita Beach. Mermaid Melody, they fight by singing. It's very funny. They transform, they sing, and the villains hold their hands over their ears and scream and panic because the songs of purity and goodness hurt them. Never mind that the main character has a terrible singing voice without her magical transformation pearl, and that's the reason her romantic interest decides she can't possibly be the mermaid who saved his life when they were kids.